Yah using America to provoke Israelite jealousy. Think about it for a moment. What are we talking about? Isn't Israel, didn't Yah tell Israel in the blessings in Deuteronomy 28, verses 1 through 15? Yah said to Moshe to tell the children of Israel, if you obey my laws and commandments, I'll set you high above all of the nations. You would be the superpower nation. All right. So what happened? Well, we're in a nation, in a land not our own, called America, and it's the superpower nation of the world. It's the one that can tell, as the news was out today, when they were talking about pressing charges on the prime minister of Israel, and some congressmen and senators got together and said, well, if The Hague pronounces criminal court proceedings against Netanyahu of Israel, we will invade The Hague. And you know, that's some pretty bold talk, because when you're at the top of the block, you can talk bold. So they have made themselves to be the arbitrators. America has made itself to be the arbitrator of who it is proper to call an Israelite. Now, if you and I are looked upon by the government, we would be counted as anti-Semitic. So you can see America has made it where it's hard for us to stand up and stand out for who we are, for fear. Now, get this. They're talking about not only criminal prosecution, but I was listening to Shapiro. He's saying it should be civil prosecution. That is, they can come and sue you and bankrupt you. That's what we're talking about. And America is good with that. The government of America, the newscasters on CNN and MSNBC and, oh, definitely Fox. They're all behind this. A new inquisition has started. A new inquisition. But we can't say we were never told. But again, it comes down to this right now, as we talk. Right now, as State of Israel is in the process of invading Rafah right now. And the world is really crying foul and genocide, but because America is at the top of the line of power over the nations, it doesn't care what the criminal court of The Hague will say regarding Netanyahu. Because what has happened is Israel is only there now because it's supported by the most powerful nation on the planet, which is the United States. So when we read the Song of Moshe, he's telling us there's a reason why America's on the top of the world and we aren't. When in reality, Yah had said, you go to Deuteronomy 28, verses 1, 2, and 3, Yah said, if you do what I command you, I'll make you at the top of it. So that means everything we're seeing America doing around the world to impose its will and to bully nations around the world, because it has so much power, monetarily and militarily. So what happened? It appears, and we're going to look into this, that the blessings that Yah had promised to us, he's given a lot of those blessings to America. Now, I know some of us say, well, that can't be right. Well, the reason he did it was we haven't been right. And so we're going to pick up here in the Song of Moses in Deuteronomy 32 and read about this, how Yah decided to use America to provoke Israelite jealousy. In verse 1 of Deuteronomy 32, Moshe says, give ear, you heaven, and I will speak, and let the earth hear the words of my mouth. Now, the ancient Israelite understanding of this verse is interpreted by an ancient Israelite scribe whose name was Jonathan ben Uzziel. Now, Jonathan ben Uzziel translated the Tanakh, the so-called Old Testament. He translated it about 100 years before Yeshua came, and he made the translation in Aramaic from Paleo Hebrew. And this is the translation that we're going to read tonight. So Jonathan ben Uzziel is not one of those scribes that opposed Yeshua, because he was a scribe before Yeshua came, almost by 100 years. And he's considered to be probably one of the greatest Torah expositors that wasn't a prophet. But he was such a great translator that I believe when Yeshua said, everybody that's instructed in the kingdom, everybody that's instructed about the kingdom should be like a scribe that can bring out his treasures, things old and new. Jonathan ben Uzziel was one of those kind of people, those scribes that could just bring out old and new things, things that had happened and things that in the future are going to happen. So I want to read the Targum translation version of Jonathan ben Uzziel. It's about over 1,000 years older than the Masoretic Hebrew text that we're using in the KJV. That KJV is a translation from a Masoretic text from about 1,000 years ago. Jonathan ben Uzziel's text translation is about 2,100 years older. So I mean, it's 1,200 years older than the Masoretic text, and it was written 2,100 years before us. So with that said, let's review this ancient Israelite orientation. The way we can better understand the scriptures is to understand it in light of ancient Hebrew thought. Now, there's a dear brother, I look at him on YouTube sometimes, and this dear brother keeps bringing up the phrase, well, there's a lot we don't know. And we who came out of traditional Christianity, we don't realize how much we have let lapse from our understanding. And as a result, he keeps saying that. But every time I hear this brother saying that, because it seems like he's attacking our faith in Yeshua's divinity when he says that. And because some brothers don't understand that the teaching of the divinity of Yeshua is much older than Christianity. In fact, Jonathan ben Uzziel is one of those scribes 100 years before Yeshua came, who talks about the Messiah as being the word of Yah, which is translated in the book of Yachanan, the book of John. The namesake of our dear elder just came in here, Elder Yachanan, who just came in, Ak Yak, as we call him, just came in. So his namesake. So his namesake, Yachanan, John chapter 1. Verse 1 and 2. So in the beginning was the word was with Elohim, the word was Elohim. So the word, that concept, where'd that come from? A lot of people say, oh, that's Greek. No, it's not. That's not Greek. That's what Plato is not from Plato and Aristotle. That concept of word came from this ancient scribe, Jonathan ben Uzziel. That's where that concept came from. And that concept in Aramaic is called the Memra, that this is the living being of Yah's presence in the one whom he pushed out of his bosom, his only begotten son, Yeshua HaMashiach. So this is not Christianity. We have to go a little bit further than where we've been. I know we got some bad luggage from there on some things that were inaccurate, but at the same time, we've got to be able to go back to the original paths that our ancestors taught and their interpretations. And this affords us one of those opportunities to read the Song of Moses in the Targum text of Jonathan ben Uziel. Now, Moshe the prophet prophesied in the congregation of Israel. And if you read what he says in those verses, introducing the song in chapter 32, he prophesied and called on the earth to hear and the heavens to hear, because in this case, heaven was nearest and earth more remote, for so it is written, attend you heavens, and I will speak, and hear earth the words of my mouth. To Moshe, the hearers in heaven were more attentive to his message than the hearers in the earth, especially among the Israelites. You know, Israelites hear, but we don't really hear. We got ears to hear, Yahshua said, but we're not really paying attention. And so Moshe said, well, there's people in heaven that are hearing what I'm saying. All right. And so to Moshe, he understood Israelites not only have a problem hearing with discernment, their hearts are hard. Israelites haven't changed much. And this is one of the reasons why YAH decided to raise up another nation to make us jealous. He said, y'all won't listen to me. I'll raise up some other people that are going to be even more foolish than you, and I'm going to make them great. And we're going to see that later. So in the close, so to Moshe, in the closing verse of this song, Moshe admonishes the Israelites. He admonished the Israelites. And he said to them, apply your heart to all the words with which I bear witness to you this day, that you may dictate them to your children, so that they may observe and do all the words of this law. Tonight, we will reflect on a portion of Deuteronomy 32 from verses 15 to 21 in the Targum text of Jonathan ben Uziel. And we're going to pick up here at verse 15. But the house of Israel grew rich and wicked. They prospered much and possessed wealth and forsook the worship of Eloah, who created them, and provoked him to anger, who redeemed them. Isn't it bad what Israel did, how they provoked Yah after they crossed the Red Sea? And after they crossed the Red Sea, all they did was continually angering Yah with their complaining and their murmuring. And they provoked him, who had just parted the Red Sea for them. They provoked him, who sent the plagues on Egypt to set them free, all of which we commemorated a week or so ago. And then Moshe, it says here in verse 16 in the Targum text. And by the way, if you want to read along with me in the Targum text, you can actually, if you got your phone, which you can just type in Deuteronomy 32 Targum text, and just look at the part of the Targum text of this chapter that's called PAL, which is called Palestinian, meaning it's a text that was written in the land, though in that time they didn't call it, in the time of Jonathan ben Uziel, Palestine, but that's what it's called now by many people. But anyway, so you can read along with me from there if you want to do that. All right, but at verse 16, it says, continues to say in this song of Moshe about the Israelites, it said, They moved him to jealousy. They moved YAH to jealousy with strange worship. By their abomination, they made him angry. And you know that golden calf, that abomination that they made, and said, these are the Elohim who brought you out of Egypt. That's some crazy thinking. Do you see why y'all saying I'm gonna have to raise up some other people to make y'all jealous? It's because we're making him jealous. And it says, verse 16, they moved him to jealousy with a strange worship. By their abominations, they made him angry. They sacrificed to idols, resembling devils. You know, behind every idol is a demon. That's what Shaul said. And I know one of those great entertainers, Tina Turner, she became a Buddhist. And most people that do Buddhism say, oh, well, we don't worship this statue. We don't worship Buddha, but we just have the statue that calls us to remember the teachings of Buddha. That's all. It's just like hanging, they'll say, a picture on the wall to remember a loved one, to think about their life. That's what they say in Buddhism. But now, same thing they say in the Catholic Church. They say, oh, we don't worship that idol of Mary. We don't worship those idols of the saints. No. We just have them there as a snapshot, or kind of like in memory, so that the spirit of holiness that they were in, we're just admiring it. Okay, so now, in their commandment, the first commandment and the second commandment, you shall have no other Elohim beside Yah, and you should not make a graven image. Exodus chapter 20. Okay, now that you would bow down to it, because people bow down to these statues. I was driving through Indiana the other day down 41, and in St. John, Indiana, near Cedar Lake, there's this big, huge monstrosity statue of Mary. It's so huge, it's scary looking. Then I look at that big idol down in Brazil, that big Jesus idol. All right, and then people, so we don't worship idols. But see, here's what they don't understand. Behind all of them idols are demons. And some of them are miracle working demons too. And so this angered Yah when Israelites started turning to these things. They sacrificed, it said in verse 17, to idols resembling demons. I do remember I was down in Kenya when I was living in Masaku, in the area near Nairobi. And there was a town called Wamunyu. When you would come into that town, there's this huge wooden statue of a demon with a horn. It's like a man in the top of his body. He's like a goat at the bottom part. And, you know, it kind of like reminded you of the, like Bath Moffat, you know, goat demon. And the people there worship those things. I mean, they do witchcraft with that. And I'll never forget, I started a congregation near that statue. And we had training schools for people that want, technical schools, people want to learn skills for sewing or for carpentry. We had all that going on. Eventually, that statue in that town, it fell. And I asked the people there, I said, what happened to the idol, the one that looked like a demon? So, oh, the termites got to that one. So you can see when the spirit of Yah comes and people start moving, Yah starts tearing down those idols in their lives. But in the meantime, it says, verse 16, they moved Yah to jealousy with strange worship. Verse 17 says they sacrificed to idols that resemble demons, devils, in which there is no profit, to idols which they had not known, See, Yah had said to the Israelites, Deuteronomy 28, verse 36, he said, I'll send you and your king to a nation that your forefathers never heard of. And there you shall serve gods of wood and stone. Now, in the Targum text, it says, you shall serve those who worship wood and stone. That's what Jonathan ben Uziel's text says in Deuteronomy 28:36. Not just that you will be worshiping idols of wood and stone, like some of us were worshiping eggs the other day during the Easter egg hunts. People sending their children after the eggs that are a representation of Astarte or Easter. That was the goddess of Babylon. She was supposed to have been born out of an egg that came down from heaven, and it cracked and it was wrapped around by two serpents, and she just busted out of that egg. And so you could see in the paganism of Babylon, you could see paganism in the churches based around the system of paganism. And then there are icons and symbols and other things. Don't have time to go into too much of that right now. I don't want to digress too much, but you get the picture. You get the picture. Israelites, sacrifices to demons, idols, in which there's no prophet, idols which they had not known. You see, when our ancestors came in slavery to America, there was some gods of the people here that our people never heard of. They never heard of all this idolatry that the people who brought us here were doing. So it's a mystery. Why then would Yah lift up those people over us? They're caught up in all that idolatry like that. Whether they call themselves Protestants, whether they call themselves Catholics, it still comes down to Babylonian furniture. All right. So it says, verse 18, but the adorable strong one who created you have you forgotten. See, we forgot Yah. And even some of our ancestors came here singing Kumbaya, which is 3 Hebrew words, arise and come Yah. But see, our people done forgot what that means now. So they'll just say, come by here, my Lord. And yet we came here and we still do have the indigenous tongue of our ancient Hebrew language, Kumbaya. But instead, we're better and more comfortable just saying, come by here, my Lord. So we forget the strong one who created us, verse 18, but the adorable strong one who created you, have you forgotten of the word of Aloha, who strengthens you so often? Have you been forgetful? Think all the times Yah has strengthened Israelites, and he's still doing it. There's moments where he strengthens us. And no sooner as he strengthens us, we revert back to all the paganism. We just seem not to get away with it. So verse 19 says, and when it was manifest before Yahweh, he was wroth, provoked thereto by his beloved children, who were called upon his name sons and daughters. And he said, I will take away from them the favor of my countenance. It will be seen what will be the end. Now he's saying some things are going to happen around us in the end, where Yah's going to demonstrate the dividing line. Just like Moshe and Mount Sinai said, those on Yah's side, come over here. Most Israelites didn't go over there. Most Israelites stayed with the golden calf. All right. Something like that's going to happen here now. When we come to the image of the beast, the mark of the beast, there's going to be a lot of Israelites going to bow down and take the image. and the mark of the beast. I hate to say that. In fact, I'm going to be so bold and say most Israelites will take the mark of the beast. They will bow down to that image. You know, like Edward G. Robinson was convincing in the movie The Ten Commandments, Aaron saying, you will build a golden calf in the Ten Commandments movie. Most Israelites will. He says, therefore, I'm taking away my favor of my countenance around. And then he continues on, for they are a perverse generation, children who have not faith. Do you know? Now, this is a really powerful translation by Jonathan Ben Uziel, verse 20, that Israelites are children who do not have faith. Israelites live by sight. They don't live by faith. Israelites go by popular followings and popular movements. Israelites aren't willing to wait in the unpopular position of faith. Faith only becomes popular and attractive when that which we have been believing happens. So that means until what we are believing happens, we are not as attractive to our people. Our people are still in the matrix. As you remember in the movie The Matrix, the people were walking around like they were in reality when they were only in a mechanical environment and under a delusion. And then when the ones who were lucky enough to come out of it, when they came out of it, and they really saw what they were, it didn't look so glamorous anymore. Now they saw the world for what it really is. And I'll never forget that one line. Keanu Reeves said, when he got disconnected from the Matrix, he said, my eyes are hurting, my eyes are hurting. I'll never forget Lawrence Fishburne said, that's because you've never used them before. You've been asleep. You've been asleep. You never used your eyes before. And now that you're seeing the reality of this monstrosity of what is called the normal American lifestyle, you know, and see that it's really a beast. Like that second beast described in Revelation, it had horns like a lamb, but it spake like a dragon. That sounds a lot like America. So he says, these are children that we Israelites have not faith. It takes faith to be in this walk. If you coming in this walk, looking to be liked, looking to be popular, and oh, by the way, after what we've seen, if this government is coming against the Hague, the criminal court, guess what? They're coming against you too, eventually. It's coming. We got to be prepared where we got to be willing to lose everything we got in order that we may gain. Because see, right now, all those people that voted for that resolution last Thursday from the House, it's only one reason a lot of them voted for them. I knew a lot of them knew that they were stupid for them to vote for it. Why did they vote that the least little comment could be considered anti-Semitic, could be prosecuted? It's because people have been bought out and sold out. Even in our Black caucus, they've been bought out and sold out. So that's because we don't have faith. We're not walking in faith. We're walking it by sight. And see, this is what YAH says in verse 21. They made me jealous by that which is not Elohim. They have angered me by their vanities. I will also provoke them to jealousy by a people which have not been a people. By the foolish Babylonian people will I provoke them. Now, this clearly is not referring to historical Babylon in Iraq. Babylon, Iraq has been a people since the days of the Tower of Babel. So on the plains of Shinar. So what is Moshe talking about? He's talking about a nation of people that in his time had never existed. Because in his time, Moshe's time, 3,500 years ago, there was no place called America or the United States of America. It didn't exist. And also, this nation is a foolish nation. A foolish nation. What does that mean? I thought we had all these academic experts and universities, colleges, degreed experts on every level. But I remember my great-grandfather, he was born in slavery. One thing about him, he was self-taught. He died about 10 years before I was born. I never met him. I saw the pictures of him and heard sayings of his that my grandfather and father would tell me about him. I wish I could have met him though. But his approach coming out of slavery was, and we got to understand our people, they understood that there was a way you could, for lack of a better word, they understood how you could con this man to get things done for you by playing to his superiority complex. See, so you just play. In other words, they just learn how to play him. This people of America and this Babylon America, they knew how to play him. And lo and behold, I remember in the movie where Eddie Murphy played like he ran for Congress, and he knew how to play his way into Congress just by feeding their ego that they somehow are better than us, and then making them open up to us for charity when in reality, he was on the take. So this is a foolish people. They're not as smart as you may think they are. Yeah, they put men on the moon. They got rockets and ships all around. But look at everything they make is stuff that can destroy themselves. I mean, all the advanced technology is stuff that can destroy them and destroy the rest of the world with it. So they can't see the forest for the trees. But yet Yah said, I'm gonna raise those people up. And they're gonna be over all the nations, and they're gonna be in the place where you were supposed to be. As he promised in Deuteronomy in the blessings, Deuteronomy 28, verse 1 through 3, where he said, if you do what I command you, I'll put you over all the nations. So he raised up America over all the nations. So our lesson subject tonight is from verse 21 in chapter 32 of Deuteronomy. And this is why our lesson is entitled, YAH used America to provoke Israelites to jealousy. This section of scripture is a prophetic word for Moshe about Israel in the future, beyond his time. In verse 15, it states that the Israelites would forsake YAH, where it states, but the house of Israel grew rich and wicked. They prospered much and possessed wealth and forsook the worship of Eloah, who created them and provoked him to anger, who redeemed them. Then in verse 16, it states, they would move YAH to jealousy. They moved him to jealousy with strange worship. By their abominations, they made him angry. Also in verse 17, it says they would turn to idolatry. They sacrificed to idols that resemble devils or demons. All right. So in addition, verse 18 says that they will forget the word of YAH. Now, that concept, the word of YAH, that is used in the Targum text in verse 18 is a clear reference to Yeshua. That's why we would see about 100 or almost 200 years later, Yochanan, the last living apostle, And people say, hey, you're the last one who actually saw Hamashiach face to face. Why don't you give us a version of what you knew about him? And so the first thing Yachanan that he said, it was different than what Matthew said, what Mark had said, what Luke had said. First thing Yachanan said was, in the beginning was the member, the word. And to Israelites back in that time, they knew what the concept was, that the word is this manifestation of the presence of Yah in his son, his only begotten son. Yes, they understood this before Yahshua came. So this is not Christian adaptations of Hebrew text. We got to understand our own history and look into the interpretation. And some are turning to the Mishnah and the Talmud and for guidance and interpreting. But see, the Targums predate that. So that the Targum text predate the Talmud and the Mishnah, these books of interpreting scripture. And in fact, it's the further back you go to Israelite interpretations, the more you're going to see Yahshua in it, not less. I think some brothers, now that they've awakened, they've assumed that now that they've come to know more about the scriptures, that things like about the nature of Yahshua as Yah in the flesh, that's not Hebraic. But see, they haven't gone back far enough to look. It is Hebraic. It's just that the guys that made the Mishnah, the Talmud, these Jewish books of interpretation, these were primarily Gentile converts. So you're still coming down through those books with Gentile interpretation. Even though these are Gentile converts to Judaism. So when we read in Deuteronomy 32 about the adorable, strong one who created you, Yah says, you have forgotten the word of Allah, who strengthened you so often. Have you been forgetful? That is, all down through Israelite history, Yahshua was always around. He wasn't known as Yahshua at that time. He was known as the Word. That's what he was known. He was the one that appeared to Abraham when Sodom was about to be destroyed. He was the one that appeared to Samson's mother, that bear witness to her that she's going to give birth to a son, not to cut his locks. All right? That was Yahshua passing. And who was that one Jacob, our father, grabbed and wrestled with all night? That was Yahshua. He's always been with us. And we have forgotten who the word of Yah is. Our forefathers knew it. Now we act like if you bring up that Yahshua is Yah, that you done swallow hook, line, and sinker Christian paganism from Europeans. But we got to go back. We can look back in these kind of interpretations. Likewise, in verse 19 of Deuteronomy 32, their rejection of Yahshua, the word of Yah, this would anger Yah against Israel. Oh my goodness. A lot of people don't understand. They think, why did Yah destroy Israel in 70 AD? They weren't worshiping idols at that time. They were very strict about the Torah. Now we know they weren't observing Torah right, but what was the reason they got destroyed? Well, the reason they got destroyed in 70 AD was they had rejected Yah's son, the one that had always been with them, the word of Yah. And when it was manifested before Yah, he was wroth and provoked thereto by his beloved children, Israel, who were called by his name sons and daughters. He didn't call these other nations sons and daughters. He said, as far as the other nations, he have not known them like that. But Again, Israelites were his firstborn, but they're not his only born. He will engraft others of other nationalities in this witness as well, whosoever will. However, these were the ones that he initially said in Amos, you only of all families have I known. Therefore, I will punish you double for your iniquity. So in verse 20, YAH says, he will take away the favor of his countenance. Now, the favor of his countenance, that's referring to Yeshua. That's the manifest, the visible image of the invisible element. He said, because we rejected him, the favor Yah has for us, that the Father has for us, he took it away from us because we did not accept the presence of his countenance in the person of Yeshua, who was revealed to our forefathers in the person of his word, Yeshua HaMashiach, the son of Elohim, the one whom they rejected. And he said, again, I will take away from them the favor of my countenance. It will be seen what will be the end, for they are a perverse generation, children who have not faith. And to this day, we still got most Israelites who claim to be Messianic, who still don't understand that Yeshua is the very presence and countenance and manifestation of Yah. To this day, until nowadays, some brothers think when you come into the truth of Yeshua, you throw down the fullness teaching of who Yeshua is. That's Greek Roman. They don't know any better. That's not Greek and Roman. That goes back to our ancestors. And y'all saying he's judging Israel because they don't know this. It's not that they couldn't know it, it's that they don't want to know it. Just like it said, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Therefore, because you have rejected knowledge, I would therefore reject you, that you should be no priest before me, and I will reject your children. Hosea 4:6. So it's one thing when you didn't know any better. But see, the thing was, the knowledge that Yah had for us was there for us all along. And we knew about it, but we just rejected it. You see, that's a difference. There's a sin of ignorance, but there's forgiveness for ignorance. But when you know it and then reject it, that's when Yah said enough is enough. As it said in Hosea 6:15, I will go and return to my place till they acknowledge their offense and seek my face. In their affliction, they will seek me early. You see, we've been in 400 years captivity and affliction. We've been through the servitude in a land not our own. And Yeshua says, I'm going back to my place in heaven at the right hand of the Father until they, speaking of us, acknowledge their offense and seek my face, seek the face of the member, the word of Yah. And in their affliction, they will seek me early. So at this time, there's still more to come. Hosea 6:15. Now, then in verse 21 of Deuteronomy 32, Yah says, of all things, that he would use Babylon, not the Babylon of the past. This is future. He's speaking about this Babylon, which is today America, to provoke Israel to jealousy. Because see, if you notice, America, it has a semblance of all the blessings that were supposed to be with us. We were supposed to be the most powerful nation on the planet. We're the ones who are supposed to be the ones sending the message of the good news throughout the world. Well, America is now the main nation that sends out biblical knowledge all over the world. And even though it's not the fullness of the knowledge, but we were supposed to be doing that. More missionaries come out of America than any other country. We have more Bible schools, more seminaries, more printing presses, TV, radio. I mean, the Bible Belt of the world is right here in America. Oh, that was supposed to be with us. See, y'all took that from us. He made this country. And they sang that song, God shed his grace on us. America the beautiful. Now, because Israel showed favor to idols rather than to Yah, Yah raised up this country as an example of what we are supposed to have attained. And you can read all those blessings, Deuteronomy 28, verse 1 through 15. Blessed in the city, blessed in the suburbs, or in the field. All that's supposed to be to us. It's just the opposite, though, for us now. We're cursed in the cities, and we're cursed in the suburbs. These curses pursue us, and they overtake us. We left, many of us, Chicago, and moved up to Milwaukee. And those curses and traumas and all waiting for us there. Then some of us got up and moved further north to Minneapolis. Now Minneapolis is messed up. Some of us said, I'm tired of South Central LA, so I'm going to move up to Portland, Oregon. Well, Portland, Oregon's messed up. Then some of us, Portland, Oregon said, well, we're going to move up to Tacoma, Washington, and Seattle. Guess what? Those same problems are there also. Because Israel continues to show favor to idols rather than to Yah. Because he said, they've made me jealous by that which is not Elohim. They've angered me by their vanities. I will also provoke them to jealousy by a people which have not been a people. Do you know, when you look back, say 300 years ago, there was no nation called the United States of America. Not only that, other than the indigenous population here, everybody else that lives here are immigrants from different parts of the world. So you don't have just one main homogeneous tribal group of people. Even among the Europeans that are here, they're comprised primarily of different countries. The largest population in America is German, believe it or not. The second largest is British or English. The third largest is Irish, and I think so-called African American. We're number 4. Then you have Italians and some of these other people. All right. Now, when you break it down, so we're looking at America primarily. It's primarily, actually, the majority of its people are Germans. I know that's going to surprise people. Germans. Now, do you know at the time when Yah sent Israel into exile, the Germans were barbarians in 70 AD. Germans were barbarians. They even the Romans looked at them as barbarians. They had no culture. They had savagery. They had all of these interconnections with the Huns, the Bulgars, and oh yes, the Khazars. These are all barbaric people. The Scythians. All right, now these people converged on Germany. Some of them are called Ashkenazi now, even the Israelis. The largest segment of them are primarily German. All right, their religion is Judaism. So, y'all say, I'm raising up savage people. When he sent us into exile, the Germans and all of those savage people, they didn't know how to read, they didn't know how to write, they didn't have any technology. They lived almost like Stone Age people. The Germans. And then he sent Israel into exile. We went into slavery. Then all of a sudden, Germany became the center of academic learning. You had scholarship and technologies and people today look at the Germans as a very educated and cultured people. All right. And yet, in the time when we went into exile, these were just barbaric people, like cavemen, almost, just savages. See, Yah said, I'm going to raise them up, make you jealous. Whether they call themselves Christian or Jewish, whatever the case is, you can see the audacity they got when they talk about they will attack the Hague if they try to press charges on Netanyahu. That's and they got technology. So again, Yah says about America, it's a people that have not been a people. That is, when Moses wrote this, and when we see through the end of the scriptures, the book of Revelation, these people were looked upon as barbarians that he raised up that are now the rulers of the world. All right. And oh, by the way, you got to remember now, Trump's German. Look at what we're facing. Trump is German. Now, I'm not saying all German people are evil and wicked. Don't get me wrong. They're just like any other people. But the fact is, through their technology, America has benefited. Its space program, that was from German technology. And many of the inventions and capabilities that we have in the modern conveniences of America, electricity, telephones, and computers, internet, Zoom. We didn't invent this. Now, I know there's some brothers that did some great inventions. I'm not discounting some of the great inventors among our people. But primarily, the realm of technology has been dominated by people who 2,000 years ago were looked upon as Stone Age people. Yes, I'm raising up those people to make you jealous. Well, so in the sense of America, even now among the majority, the dominant population of whites in America, they are comprised of multiple European nationalities in biblical era times that were considered to be barbarians, like the Germans, the Irish, and the Italians. The question is, how has America, which is the Babylon, referred to in the Targum text of Deuteronomy 32:21, how could it be used by Yah to make Israel jealous in the sense of being envied? Well, in the book of Romans, particularly in chapters 10 and 11, the Apostle Shaul applied Deuteronomy 32:21 to the European nationality of his time, who would eventually, centuries later, establish the United States of America. Romans 10:19 says, but I say, did not Israel know? First Moshe said, I will provoke you to jealousy by them that are no people, and by a foolish nation will I anger you. Now, and when Shaul wrote this, those folk that run America now, they were looked upon then as foolish, backwards people. They're not looking like that now. And in fact, they're so bold and arrogant, they think it's because of their own ingenuity. They don't realize that Yah has used them to be where they are to make you and me jealous. He has actually allowed us to be captured and brought here to look at all the things that they have made with all of the creature comforts and technologies and medicine, education, technology. He's allowed us to see all of that. And then we look at ourselves and say, oh man, we don't have a reputation like that. We're now looked upon as the backwards people. I mean, goodness gracious, the tables have turned. And then Charles says in Romans 11 through 14, I say then, have they, that is Israel, have they stumbled that they should fall? Elohim forbid. But rather, through their fall, salvation is come unto the Gentiles to provoke them to jealousy. Now, if the fall of them be the riches of the world, you see, when we fell, the world became richer than it ever has been since Israel fell. The world is richer than it ever has been right now. I know we got some inflation, hard time, but this is the world is very rich now in terms of economics through the Western barbaric cultures that YAH raised up. He says, so if our fall became the riches of the world and the diminishing of them, our diminishing became the riches of the Gentiles, how much more their fullness? How much more will the world be blessed when Israel awakens and returns back to YAH, our Elohim? The Gentiles think they got it good now. They won't realize how much better it'll be when Israel's back where it should be, on top of the nation. When YAH will bless the world through the Israelites. And Saul continues in verse 13, in chapter 11 of Romans, for I speak to you, Gentiles, inasmuch as I am the apostle of the Gentiles. I magnify mine office. If by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are my flesh, and might save some of them. Saul saying, I want my flesh, my Israelite people, to look at what YAH will do even for a foolish people that have not known him. He wants us to see that as great as these people seem to be, he's saying, when you turn back to me, I'll make you even greater than what they are, than what you see now. And, well, continuing on here, according to Genesis 10:5, the Gentiles are primarily Noah's children through Japheth. And it is these Gentiles who divided up the shorelines of the Western Mediterranean Sea, which also includes the other seas as well, or oceans like the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. These people are world travelers over the world with their ships, marines, and so forth, sailors. And in Genesis 10:5, it says of the Gentiles, by these were the islands of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. Now, these maritime descendants of Japheth are called the Gentiles in Genesis 10:5. And it was they who established America, the greatest nation, technologically, economic, and militarily ever in the history of the world. All right. So it was as though Paul, citing Deuteronomy 32:21 through the Romans in chapters 10 and 11, he was citing a prophecy that a maritime Roman Italian named Christopher Columbus would initiate the chain of events that would lead up to the establishment of Babylon, America, which in turn would be the nation Moshe said would make Israel envious. The question then is, how does America make Israel jealous? America has the largest population of believers in Yahshua in the world who claim to be believers, Remember the prophecy of Moshe in Deuteronomy 32:21, he said that there would be a foolish people in Babylon, America. But in spite of their limited understanding of the good news, their limited understanding of the Torah, their limited understanding of us, the Israelites, they don't understand us. They can understand why there's an awakening among us. What these Negroes, why are they now trying to be somebody else? And yet, these are the same Bible Belt people that claim they read the Bible cover to cover, and they don't take time to really hear what it's saying, to be able to see that nobody else, those descriptions fit but you. So again, you're dealing with a foolish nation. So again, as my elder Ben Hazel used to say, we should not be bent out of shape when we hear how inaccurate and unintelligent this man is when it comes to the knowledge about who we are. And yet, YAH nonetheless would bless them to increase his blessings through Yeshua, the word of YAH. In other words, YAH saying, as foolish as their misunderstanding of Yeshua is. Well, they said they believe he died and was buried for 3 days and 3 nights and got up on the 3rd day, and yet they're foolish enough to believe that he died on a Friday and got up on a Sunday morning. That's not 3 days and 3 nights. This is what we're talking about. And yet, YAH somehow, in spite of their lack of knowledge on a lot of things, it just seemed like YAH is still blessing them just for the little bit they got. You know, to whom much is given, much is required, which would mean also to whom little is given, little is required. In other words, YAH is willing to overlook a lot of falsehoods they've gotten because his people who should know better acted like we didn't know better. Now, some of our young people think it's cool to look ignorant and talk ignorant when they're smarter than that. And we got to talk to our young people about that. All right. According to Shaul, quoting from Deuteronomy 32:21, these Gentiles would even become the leading messengers of the good news of Yeshua to all the world. And I'm telling you here now, all around the world, this good news is going around by people that don't look like us. And yet our job is to be the main messengers of that. America today is the leading gospel missionary country in the whole world. YAH said he would use this leading gospel messenger nation of America, which is a foolish nation, to make Israelites jealous, because Israel was originally chosen to be YAH's chosen messengers to the world. But in Isaiah 42, verse 19 through 25, YAH says of Israel, who is blind but my servant, or deaf as my messenger that I sent? Who is blind as he that is perfect, and blind as YAH's servant, seeing many things, but thou observest not, opening the ears, but he heareth not. YAH is well pleased for his righteous sake. He will magnify the Torah and make it honorable. But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes. They are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey and none delivered, for a spoil and none said restore. Who among you will give ear to this? Who will hearken and hear for the time to come? Who gave Yaakov for a spoil and Israel to the robbers? Did not YAH, he against whom we have sinned? For they would not walk in his ways, neither were they obedient unto his Torah, his laws. Therefore he hath poured upon him the fury of his anger and the strength of battle, and it hath set him on fire round about. Yet he knew it not, and it burned him. Yet he laid it not to heart. So YAH said he would use America, a foolish and uninformed nation, to expand his blessings to the world. However, Shaul warns against Gentile pride in America in Romans 11, verse 18 through 22. And he tells the Gentiles, boast not against the branches, but if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee. Thou wilt say then, the branches were broken off, that I might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief they were broken off, and thou standest by faith. Be not high-minded, but fear. For if Elohim spared not the natural branches, take heed lest he also spare not thee. Behold, therefore, the goodness and severity of Elohim. On them which fell, severity, but toward thee goodness, if thou continue in his goodness, otherwise thou shalt also be cut off. Gentile pride in America, particularly their pride in their abilities and capabilities to oppress Israelites, will ultimately bring down God's wrath on the Gentiles here. Because according to Deuteronomy 32:26, they start believing that their own supremacy was from themselves and not from Yah. If Yah had not dealt with them, they'd still be living like primitive people live in third world countries. They would be. That's what they were up until the time we fell. Then all of a sudden, it's like Yah gave them a smart pill or something. They woke up. We're only telling you what we've seen, talking about what we've seen, not what we heard. All right. So in verse 26 of Deuteronomy 32, it says, but for the wrath of the enemy, and that their oppressors would glorify themselves against me and say, our hand have taken vengeance upon our adversaries, and all this have not been decreed by Yah. In other words, they're saying, Yah didn't give us this. We did this from our own ingenuity and power. And then Yah said, when he hears them begin to think and talk like that, that's when he declares in chapter 32, verse 35 through 43, his wrath is coming to destroy Babylon, America. Starting at verse 35 through 43 of Deuteronomy 32, Targum text. He says, vengeance lies before me, and I will recompense them, that is America, at the time when their foot shall move to the captivity. For the day of their destruction is coming near, and the evil which is prepared for them maketh haste. This is the word of Yah right now. He's saying their destruction has been prepared. They can talk about what they can do to you, but they better stop listening to themselves and listen to what Yah's saying here to them before it's too late. Because verse 36 says, for the word of Yah, that's Yahshua, judgeth in his mercy the judgment of his people Israel. It's coming to the time when Yahshua said in Hosea 6:15, I will go back to my place until they acknowledge their fault, their offenses. Well, there's something happening in the spirit realm. The awakening has happened. And the spiritual awakening of Israelites is happening. So it's in this time that the word of Yah, judgeth, it says, verse 36, Targum text, in his mercy. He sees the judgment of his people Israel, and for the evil he hath appointed upon his servants. There shall be repentance before him. For he knoweth that in the time when they have sinned, the stroke of their enemies will be heavy upon them, and help have passed away from their hands, and the faithful will have failed with their good works and be scattered and forsaken. Verse 37, and the enemy will say, where is the fear of the Israelites, their strength, in whom they confide? And say, you Israelites, you all don't have nothing. We're not even going to recognize you or acknowledge you for who you are. You're nothing. You don't have any geopolitical power in the world. See, Yah hears all this. He hears vocab Malone and the urban apologists, these modern day Inquisition Gentiles. He's hearing this. And they'd better shut up and be quiet, because the more they keep talking and trying to prove that you and me are not the Israelites, the more it angers Yahshua. See, we don't have to be angry at it. Yahshua himself is angry with them. And it says, the enemy will say, where is the fear of these Israelites? We can bully them. We can take them off YouTube. We can put them in YouTube doghouse where they can't talk what needs to be taught. We can sue them for everything they got. They don't have money to get lawyers. Yeah, see, they're scheming on us now. Even the other day, I was looking at a video site they had against Benaiah, our brother, Benaiah Israel. And I mean, I see, because you got to follow. So we want to keep our brethren in prayer for Yah's protection. Yahshua's seeing this. And these people say, where is the strength of Israel? Verse 37 of chapter 32 of Moses and the Torah. Where is their strength in whom they confided? Where's Yah? Where is the Yah who they claim they believe in? Well, they're going to find out who he is. And it says, who is he that ate the fat of their sacrifice and drank the wine of their libation? Let him now rise up and help you. Let him shield you by his word. Oh, they've got so much pride in their Iron Dome missile shields. They got so much pride in their technologies and missiles and satellites. Oh, they got so much pride. However, Moshe said, let him now rise up and help you, Israelite. Let him shield you, not by Iron Dome, not by missile defense system, but by the very word of Yah himself. You see, saints, we're at a time where we're getting ready to see Yah's not playing. This talk that we're saying is more than just talk. It's reality, it's truth, and it's power. It's the manifestation of Yah's intervention in this world. Verse 39, when the word of Yah shall reveal himself to redeem his people, he will say to all the nations, behold now that I am he who am and was and will be, and there is no other Elohim beside me. I and my word kill and make alive. I smote the people of the house of Israel, but I will heal them at the end of the days, and there will be none who can deliver them from my hand. Gog and his armies, who I've permitted to make war against them. Gog and Magog. That's all these people are, descended from those descendants of Japheth, which included Magog. All right, verse 40, Yah says, I have lifted my hand with an oath to heaven and have said, as I exist, I will not abolish my oath forever. Yah made an oath by his own self to Abraham. In Genesis 15, he swore by his own self of his covenant with you and I, the oath that he made with us forever. So it says in verse 41 of the Targum text, I whet my sword as lightning. It will prevail in the judgment of my hand. I will return retribution on them who afflict my people, and repay to their enemies the hire of their wickedness. I will make my arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall slay the people, that by the blood of the slain and the captives, I may take the crowns from the head of the foe and the enemy. Rejoice, you nations, and you people of the house of Israel, for the blood of his servants which was shed, he hath avenged. He hath kept in mind and returned just vengeance upon his adversaries. And by his word, by Yahshua, will he make atonement for his land and for his people. We are now in that time of the coming judgment on Babylon. Hallelujah. Praise Yah.